She was a billionaire's only daughter. At 6 years old, she was found begging at the entrance of the most expensive building in the city, her own father's. He thought she was safe at home, asleep. But there she was, hungry, cold, asking strangers for help. No one expected the person responsible for this to be someone so close, someone in whom he had placed his entire life's trust. This is the story of how ambition can blind even the most powerful, and how sometimes realizing the truth too late can be the most unbearable pain a father can feel. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Oh, and don't forget to comment below telling us where you're watching from. We love to know, what is a corporate empire worth if you lose the only person who truly matters? São Paulo, 11 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday in October 2025. The mirrored glass skyscraper of Almeida Tech reflected the city lights like a beacon of corporate success. 40 floors of concrete, steel, and ambition. On the top floor, Rodrigo Almeida, the 38-year-old CEO of the technology conglomerate valued at 2 billion reais, was finally shutting down his computer after 17 uninterrupted hours of work. The meeting with Japanese investors had ended earlier than expected. A client had cancelled at the last minute. Rodrigo felt the exhaustion in his shoulders, but also a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, he would be home before midnight. Maybe he would even get to see Sophia, his 6-year-old daughter, awake in the morning. The thought made him smile as he adjusted his Italian tie and picked up his leather briefcase. He couldn't imagine that in 5 minutes his entire life would crumble, that everything he had built, the multi-million-dollar contracts, the international trips, the Entrepreneur of the Year awards, would prove irrelevant in the face of what he was about to discover. Because sometimes professional success is just a smokescreen that hides the most devastating failures. And Rodrigo was about to face the biggest failure of his life. The panoramic elevator descended slowly through the 40 floors. Through the glass, São Paulo glittered like a carpet of diamonds. Rodrigo checked messages on his phone, emails from suppliers, team reports, new business proposals. Nothing from Helena, his private secretary who looked after Sophia, nothing unusual. She always sent a message at 9 p.m. Sophia is asleep, all is quiet. There was no message tonight, but Rodrigo assumed everything was fine. The elevator doors opened onto the polished marble ground floor. The night security guard nodded respectfully. "Good evening, Dr. Rodrigo. Leaving early tonight." Rodrigo managed a tired smile. Early for him meant 11 p.m. He crossed the expansive lobby, his Italian shoes echoing in the silence. The revolving door led him out onto the wet sidewalk, the smell of recent rain mixed with the expensive cologne he wore, and that's when he saw her. A small figure was huddled beside the building's entrance, a child, begging. Rodrigo felt a tightness in his chest. He always did when he saw children in vulnerable situations. Ever since losing Camilla, his wife, 2 years ago, he had developed a special sensitivity to the suffering of children. Automatically, he reached into his pocket for some money. But something made him stop. The child's posture, the brown hair with golden highlights, even though it was dirty, the faded pink backpack. He approached slowly, his heart accelerating without understanding why. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked in a soft voice. The child lifted her face, and Rodrigo's world stopped. Green eyes, exactly like Camilla's, the dimple on her chin, the small scar on her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike at age 4. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be. "Sophia?" The word came out as a choked cry. Rodrigo fell to his knees on the wet sidewalk, oblivious to his 3,000 real suit. His hands trembled as he touched his daughter's dirty face. It was her. His Sophia, here, begging at the entrance of his building, in dirty clothes with disheveled hair and bare feet. She looked at him with wide, frightened eyes, as if she didn't recognize her own father. And then she began to cry, a silent, devastating cry that broke his heart into pieces that would never fully mend. 6 months before that devastating moment, Rodrigo Almeida's life seemed perfectly organized. He had mastered the art of balancing a corporate empire and single fatherhood, or so he believed. The routine was as precise as a Swiss watch. Wake up at 5:30 a.m., review reports while drinking coffee, leave at 6 a.m. while Sophia was still asleep. Helena would arrive at 7 a.m. to take care of everything. He would return between 11 p.m. and midnight when his daughter was already asleep. Rodrigo had lost Camilla 2 years ago to an aggressive cancer that took her in 6 months. The pain had been unbearable, watching the woman he loved wither away day after day, powerless to save her. After the funeral, he had thrown himself into his work like a drowning man clinging to a raft. He expanded the company aggressively, closed international deals, and tripled revenue. He told himself he was building Sophia's future, but the truth was simpler and more painful. Working was easier than feeling. It was exactly 6 months ago that everything began to fall apart, though he didn't know it at the time. Rodrigo had just closed the biggest deal of his career, an expansion into Asian markets, 5 countries, a $200 million investment. The project would require constant travel, 2 weeks out of every month. He had spent 3 sleepless nights analyzing its feasibility, and then he called Helena in for a serious conversation. "I need someone to take full responsibility for Sophia, someone who can live here during my absences. I need absolute trust." Helena Cardoso was 32 years old and had been Rodrigo's private secretary for 5 years. Her professional appearance was impeccable, well-tailored suits, hair always in a neat bun, discreet makeup. She was efficient, organized, and proactive. She managed his impossible schedule, remembered clients' birthdays, and solved problems before they became crises. Rodrigo considered her part of the family. He had increased her salary 3 times. He trusted her with bank passwords, security codes, and confidential documents. Entrusting Sophia to her seemed natural. "I would love to help more with Sophia," Helena had replied with a warm smile. "I've always worried about her since Mrs. Camilla passed away. It would be an honor to take better care of the little girl." Rodrigo felt immense relief. He offered her a salary of $25,000 a month plus benefits, full use of the apartment during his trips, and a corporate card for Sophia's expenses. Helena accepted, moved. They made a verbal agreement. Mutual trust made formal contracts unnecessary. It was Rodrigo's first fatal mistake. The apartment was a 500 square meter penthouse in Itaim Bibi, a wealthy neighborhood in São Paulo. It had a panoramic view of the city, minimalist decor by an award-winning architect, and a state-of-the-art security system with 4 cameras. Sophia's room occupied an entire wing, 60 square meters, filled with expensive toys she rarely used, a shelf of children's books and a desk where she drew. In Rodrigo's closet, a built-in safe held Camilla's jewelry, valued at $2 million. Helena had the code, in case of an emergency. Sophia was a child who was too quiet for her 6 years. She had brown hair with golden streaks inherited from her mother, expressive green eyes, and a dimple on her chin when she smiled, which happened less and less often. She loved to draw, especially portraits of her late mother, which she kept under her pillow. She was unusually obedient, never complaining, never asking for attention. Rodrigo interpreted this as precocious maturity. The truth was darker. Sophia had learned that her needs bothered adults, so she hid them. For the first 2 months after the agreement, everything seemed to work perfectly. Rodrigo traveled, and Helena sent pictures of a happy Sophia, always clean, smiling for the camera, in well-staged settings. Daily video calls at 8 p.m. showed a well-behaved girl saying, "Everything is fine, Daddy." He would return from his trips to find an impeccable house, Sophia asleep, and notes from Helena reporting, "Everything is quiet, she ate well, did her homework, played in the park." Rodrigo felt he had made the right decision. He had finally managed to reconcile professional success with fatherhood, but there were signs, small ones, easy to ignore for someone who wanted to believe that everything was fine. Sophia had lost 2 kilos, a growth spurt Helena had justified. The girl's drawings became darker, figures with no mouths, closed eyes, somber colors. Dr. Henrique, her pediatrician for 4 years, had expressed concern. "Sophia is more introspective. I suggest psychological counseling." Rodrigo had noted it in his calendar but always postponed it. "After I close this project, when I get back from this trip, next month, I promise." Donna Irene, the residential building's doorkeeper for 15 years, had also noticed changes. Helena leaving with discreet bags at odd hours. An unknown man, tall, tattooed, wearing a cap, entering frequently when Dr. Rodrigo was traveling. Sophia appearing at the front desk late at night, sometimes disoriented, while Helena dealt with an emergency in the apartment. Donna Irene had commented casually, "Is everything all right with little Sophia? She seems a bit sad lately." Helena had replied with cutting coldness, "I take very good care of her, thank you. You don't need to worry." The tone was a clear warning. Stay out of it. 4 months before Rodrigo found Sophia begging, Helena crossed a line from which she would never return. It was a Friday night. Rodrigo was in Tokyo closing the first phase of the Asian contract, and Marcelo, the personal trainer with whom Helena had started a secret relationship 3 weeks earlier, was in the apartment for the first time. He walked through the rooms with wide eyes, touching the Italian designer furniture, appraising the original paintings on the walls. "How much is all this worth?" he asked in an impressed voice. Helena felt a mixture of pride and envy. She had worked there for 5 years, but none of it was hers. Sophia came out of her room at 9:30 p.m., interrupting the moment. "Aunt Helena, I can't sleep," the little girl said in a small voice, looking suspiciously at the strange man. Helena felt a momentary panic. She couldn't let Sophia tell her father about the visits. She improvised quickly. "You're tired, honey. I'll make you a special tea that your mother used to like. It will help you sleep better." She took chamomile from the cupboard and added half a dose of a benzodiazepine she kept for her own insomnia. 20 minutes later, Sophia was sleeping soundly. It had worked perfectly. Marcelo was impressed. "She's going to sleep through the night?" he asked. Helena nodded, already planning for the next time. Marcelo kissed her, then commented, looking around, "You work so hard for this guy. Does he at least pay you well?" Helena replied that he did, but the question planted a seed. $25,000 was a lot for most people, but it was a pittance compared to the millions that circulated in that house. She saw Rodrigo's bank statements, knew about the investments, about Camilla's jewels in the safe. Envy began to transform into justification. In the following weeks, Helena tested the limits. She gradually increased the dose of sedative in Sophia's nightly teas. The girl began to wake up confused, with headaches and a hazy memory of the previous day. "I feel strange, Aunt Helena," Sophia complained one morning. Helena stroked her hair with false concern. "It's just a little flu, dear. That's why I make you the teas. But we don't need to worry your father with silly things. He has so much work. Our little secret, okay?" Sophia agreed. She had been taught not to bother Daddy. Rodrigo called daily from Japan, then from Korea, then from Singapore. "How's my princess?" he always asked. Helena would put the phone on speaker and nudge Sophia to answer. "I'm fine, Daddy," the girl would say in a monotone voice, reading the approval in Helena's eyes. "Are you eating well?" "Doing your homework?" "Yes, Daddy." The conversations lasted 3 minutes. Rodrigo always had an urgent meeting. He would blow kisses through the phone, promise to bring a present, and hang up, relieved that everything was under control. He never asked why his daughter's voice sounded so listless. It was in the 5th week that Helena committed the first theft. Marcelo was pressuring her. He had lost his job, owed $15,000 to loan sharks, and needed money urgently. "You have access to everything in that house," he had insinuated. The gave a billionaire, he won to miss a little something. Helena resisted at first, but the combination of fear of losing Marcel and resentment toward Rodrigo convinced her. She opened the safe with the code as she had memorized. She took the most discreet diamond necklace. Even so, it was worth $80,000. She sold it to a fence Marcelo knew for $55,000. The money lasted 3 weeks. Expensive dinners, designer clothes, a 5-star hotel for a romantic weekend. Helena felt powerful for the first time in her life. No longer the employee who admired someone else's luxury, but someone who could buy it. When the money ran out, Marcelo started pressuring her again. "There's more jewelry in there, isn't there? He never even opens that safe. Why let it all just sit there?" The twisted logic made sense to Helena. She took a pair of emerald earrings, then a sapphire brooch, then a pearl bracelet. In 2 months, $200,000 had disappeared from the safe. Rodrigo, focused on international contracts, hadn't checked the jewelry since Camilla's funeral. Sophia began to resist the tease. "I don't want it, Aunt Helena. It makes my head hurt," she said with unusual stubbornness. Helena couldn't risk it. Marcelo was now coming over 3 times a week, sometimes with friends for a small party. She changed her strategy. She mixed the sedative into Sophia's favorite orange juice, into her yogurt, into her chocolate milk. The girl drank it without suspicion. 30 minutes later, she was unconscious. Helena would lock her bedroom door, turn up the music in the living room to drown out any noise in case Sophia woke up, and get on with her night. But the 10th time she drugged Sophia, something went wrong. The girl didn't wake up in the morning, not even at noon. Helena panicked, checked her pulse, her breathing. Everything was weak but present. At 2 p.m., Sophia finally opened her eyes, disoriented, unable to stand. Helena realized she had gone too far with the dose. It was then that she made an even crueler decision. The next few times Marcelo came over, she wouldn't drug Sophia. She would simply remove her from the house. She would put the girl out on the street for a few hours. The Canadian investor cancelled at the last minute. An urgent family matter. The meeting ended at 10:45 p.m., not midnight as planned. Rodrigo felt a mixture of professional frustration and personal relief. For the first time in months, he would be home before 11 p.m. Maybe he could see Sofia awake, have a real conversation, not just exchange quick messages. He packed up his laptop, grabbed his coat, and said goodbye to his team. The panoramic elevator took him from the 40th floor to the ground floor in contemplative silence. He was thinking about hugging his daughter. He had no idea what he would find. The revolving door spat him out onto the sidewalk. The smell of recent rain, city lights reflecting in puddles, the typical buzz of São Paulo at 11 p.m. Rodrigo was adjusting his tie when he noticed a small figure huddled beside the building's entrance. A child begging. His heart tightened. It always did when he saw childhood vulnerability. Automatically, his hand went to his pocket for money, but something made him stop. The faded pink backpack, the blue coat he had bought for Sofia last month, the brown hair with golden highlights, even dirty and disheveled. No, it couldn't be. He approached on trembling legs. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked in a voice he didn't recognize as his own. The child slowly lifted her face, and the world stopped. Green eyes identical to Camilla's, the dimple on her chin, the small scar on her left eyebrow, the chapped lips, the dirty hands, the bare feet. It was Sofia, his daughter, here, on the street, alone, at 11 p.m., begging at the entrance of his building. For 3 full seconds, Rodrigo's mind simply couldn't process the information. "Sofia!" The cry came out hoarse, strangled. Rodrigo fell to his knees on the wet sidewalk, indifferent to his $8,000 Italian suit. His hands shaking violently, he touched his daughter's face. It was ice cold. "My God, Sofia, what are you doing here? Where's Helena?" The girl looked at him with wide, glazed eyes, as if she didn't fully recognize him. And then she began to cry. Not the normal cry of a child, but a silent, deep, devastating sob from someone who had broken inside and could now finally fall apart. The guard from the corporate building's entrance ran over, alarmed. "Dr. Rodrigo! This girl! She's been here for about 2 hours. I thought she was an employee's daughter waiting for her parents. I didn't know she was your daughter." 2 hours. Sofia had been there, alone, for 2 hours. While he was reviewing spreadsheets on the 40th floor, his daughter was freezing on the sidewalk just a few blocks away. Rodrigo took off his own coat, wrapped Sofia in it, and picked her up. She weighed less than he remembered, much less. When was the last time he had truly looked at his daughter? Donna Irene, the doorkeeper from their residential building, came running. Someone had called to report the commotion. Seeing Sofia in Rodrigo's arms, she gasped, "Thank God you found her. Rodrigo, I tried to tell you. That woman, Helena, she brings strange men over when you travel. I saw your daughter at the front desk alone several times late at night. I tried to talk to you 3 times, but Helena always showed up and said everything was under control." The words hit Rodrigo like physical blows. Several times. It wasn't the first time. Sofia had been repeatedly put out, and he had known nothing. Rodrigo couldn't form coherent sentences. "Hospital," was all he said. He carried Sofia to his car, calling Dr. Henrique, the pediatrician, during the drive. "I found my daughter on the street, alone. I don't know how long this has been happening. I need you to be at the hospital when we arrive." In the back seat, he held Sofia, who continued to cry silently. He whispered, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," like a desperate mantra. But apologies couldn't erase what she had suffered. They couldn't erase the fact that he had failed at the only thing that truly mattered, protecting his own child. At the hospital, emergency tests revealed an even more devastating truth. Dr. Henrique came out of the examination room with a grave expression. "Rodrigo, we found benzodiazepines in Sofia's blood, potent sedatives. The levels indicate regular administration, not a single dose. How long has she been taking these medications? Rodrigo felt the floor disappear from under his feet. She doesn't take any medicine. She never has. She has no prescriptions. Dr. Henrique placed a hand on his shoulder. Then someone has been medicating her without your knowledge. Rodrigo, this is child abuse. We need to call the police. Sitting in the cold chair of the waiting room while Sophia underwent more tests, Rodrigo replayed the last 6 months like a slow-motion film. The signs had all been there. Sophia's progressive weight loss, the increasingly disturbing drawings, figures with no mouths, tied hands, dark colors, the girl becoming quieter, more distant, more frightened. Dr. Henrique trying to schedule urgent meetings that he cancelled for unavoidable commitments. Donna Irene trying to talk to him 3 times, all of it ignored. All of it sacrificed on the altar of professional success. He had built a 2 billion real empire while his daughter was being drugged, abused, and repeatedly thrown out onto the street. At 11:58 p.m., Rodrigo called Helena. His hands trembled as he held the phone. She answered on the 5th ring, her voice deliberately sleepy. "Rodrigo, is something wrong? It's almost midnight." He heard loud music in the background, male laughter, the sounds of a party. She wasn't sleeping. She was celebrating, while Sophia was in the hospital with sedatives in her blood. The rage Rodrigo felt was so pure, so absolute, that for 3 seconds he couldn't speak. He could only breathe, control the impulse to drive across town and confront her physically. "Where do you think Sophia is right now?" he asked in a dangerously calm voice. Helena hesitated, the sound of music being turned down in the background. "In bed, sleeping. Where else would she be?" A lie. A lie so natural, so automatic, that Rodrigo realized she had done this many times. She lied with the ease of someone who had practiced. "Wrong. She's at St. Louis Hospital. I found her begging at the entrance of my building an hour ago. She has sedatives in her blood, Helena, benzodiazepines. The tests prove regular administration for months." Silence on the other end. Long. Calculating. Helena tried to recover. "I don't know what you're talking about. Sophia must have run away while I was asleep. She's been so rebellious lately." Her voice was panic, poorly disguised as indignation. Rodrigo cut her off. "Donna Irene saw you, multiple times, leaving Sophia alone, bringing men to the apartment. The guards at my building confirmed Sophia was there for 2 hours, and the doctors say she was medicated regularly. It's over, Helena. I'm calling the police now. If you run, it will be worse. If you stay and confess, there might be clemency." He heard her rapid breathing. Then a click. She had hung up. Rodrigo immediately called the criminal lawyer he kept on retainer. He explained the situation in clipped sentences. The lawyer was direct. "I'll gather evidence immediately. Medical reports, witness statements, street security cameras. In the meantime, I'll file a police report and request a warrant for her arrest." "She's going to try to run, Rodrigo. We have maybe 6 hours." Rodrigo authorized everything. Then he called his head of security. "Check the apartment safe now. A complete inventory of Camilla's jewelry. Send me a report in 1 hour." A dark premonition told him that abusing Sophia wasn't Helena's only crime. As he made these strategic calls, a part of Rodrigo was falling apart inside. He was the CEO of a billion real conglomerate, commanded 300 employees, and closed international deals. But he had failed to protect a 6-year-old child under his own roof. He had prioritized meetings over hugs, contracts over conversations, money over presence. And Helena had exploited every absence, every moment of negligence, every decision to, "I trust you, take care of everything." He wasn't just a victim of her betrayal. He was an unwitting accomplice through his omission. At 2:37 a.m., the head of security called with the report. "Mr. Rodrigo, we've checked the safe. 7 pieces are missing. Approximate total value, $620,000. Rodrigo closed his eyes and leaned his head against the cold hospital wall. Camilla's jewelry, the last physical memories of the wife he had loved, stolen, likely sold to finance parties while Sophia was being drugged. This is additional proof. Send the full inventory to my lawyer immediately. He hung up. Part of him wanted to feel anger over the theft, but compared to what Helena had done to Sophia, the jewelry was irrelevant. Money was recoverable. A shattered innocence was not. Dr. Henrique came out of the exam room at 3:15 a.m. Sophia is stable. We've managed to counteract the sedatives. She will sleep naturally now. But Rodrigo, I need to be honest. We found signs of significant psychological trauma. She will need intensive therapy, possibly for years. And, he hesitated, she hasn't spoken a single word since she arrived. Not to the nurses, not to me. She has only cried silently. This is trauma-induced selective mutism. Rodrigo felt his knees weaken. Sophia had stopped talking. His vibrant daughter, who at 4 years old never stopped telling stories, was now mute. He entered the room where Sophia slept, connected to monitors, so small in that hospital bed, so fragile. Rodrigo sat beside her, took her tiny hand, and for the first time since Camilla's funeral, he cried. Not the restrained cry of a corporate man maintaining composure, but a convulsive, devastating sob of a father who had absolutely failed. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. I should have seen. I should have been there. I should have protected you. I built an entire empire, but lost you in the process. I'm sorry. He whispered the words like a desperate prayer to a daughter who couldn't hear him. At 6:27 a.m., the police called. They had located Helena and Marcelo at a bus station, trying to board a bus to Foz do Iguaçu with false documents. In their luggage, $420,000 in jewelry, including Camilla's emerald necklace. Both were arrested on the spot. Rodrigo should have felt a sense of triumph. He felt only emptiness. Legal justice didn't erase what Sophia had suffered. It didn't return the months of trauma. It didn't cure her mutism. It didn't rebuild a shattered trust. Helena in prison was necessary, but not sufficient. The real work, reconnecting with Sophia, rebuilding her sense of security, proving he deserved a second chance as a father, would begin now and would take years. On the 5th day of her hospital stay, something changed. Rodrigo was reading Sophia her favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are, which Camilla used to read to her. He got to the part, and Max said, "Let the wild rumpus start." Sophia whispered along with him, "Let the wild rumpus start." 3 words, small, but they were the sound of her voice after 5 days of silence. Rodrigo stopped reading and looked at his daughter. She was looking at him, not with fear, but with something resembling cautious hope. He held her hand. "I love you, Sophia, and I'm going to truly protect you now, I promise." She didn't answer, but she squeezed his hand back. It was a start. 6 months after that devastating night, Sophia Almeida turned 7. The little girl who had been found begging, drugged, and traumatized now sat at the breakfast table in a single-story house with a garden, petting Rex, the golden retriever Rodrigo had adopted 3 weeks after her hospital discharge. She still attended therapy twice a week with Dr. Patricia, a specialist in childhood trauma. She still had occasional nightmares where she would wake up screaming for Helena, but she was 80% better. She was talking normally again, smiling genuinely, and drawing colorful pictures instead of somber ones. The recovery was slow, imperfect, but real. Rodrigo was unrecognizable from the workaholic CEO of 6 months prior. He had formally resigned from his full-time CEO position, taking on a strategic consultant role with fixed hours, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., 6 hours a day, no exceptions. He took Sophia to school every morning at 7:30, picked her up at noon, they had lunch together, and he helped with her homework before his afternoon meetings. No international travel, no work on weekends, no cell phones during dinner. The company remained profitable under a new operational CEO, but Rodrigo had learned that success without presence was just well-paid failure. The transformation hadn't been easy. The board of directors had resisted. "You're at the peak of your career, you can't just leave." Rodrigo had been adamant. "I can and I will. I built a billion-real company, but lost my daughter in the process. Almost literally, either I change now or I lose her for good. I choose Sophia." The statement leaked to the press. Some called him weak, others a revolutionary. He didn't care about any of the opinions. Sophia sleeping peacefully for the first time in months was worth more than any headline or corporate title he had ever received. Dr. Patricia had explained to Rodrigo during a family session what Sophia was processing. She learned that adults can hurt you, that trusting is dangerous, that asking for help can result in threats. We are deconstructing these beliefs, but it takes time. What's helping her is your consistent presence, Rodrigo. She's relearning that you won't disappear again, that you'll be there when she wakes up and when she goes to sleep. Consistency rebuilds security. Sophia still slept with a light on. Rodrigo still slept on a mattress on the floor next to her bed. He refused to leave her alone until she asked him to. The impact of Rodrigo's story extended beyond his family. Harvard Business School created a case study, Rodrigo Almeida and the Redefinition of Success, when losing everything teaches you what matters. He was invited to speak at conferences on work-life balance. He always refused those that conflicted with Sophia's schedule. At the ones he accepted, he told the brutal truth. "I made 2 billion reais, but almost lost my daughter because I trusted blindly and was completely absent." Success that requires sacrificing the ones you love isn't success. It's failure disguised as achievement. With a portion of his personal wealth, Rodrigo created the Sophia Institute, an organization that offered free therapy to child victims of domestic abuse and neglect. He donated $5 million as seed capital. He hired 15 specialized psychologists. In 6 months, it had served 200 children. "If this institution saves a single child from suffering what Sophia suffered, every cent will have been worth it," he declared at the inauguration. Sophia, present at the event, held his hand and whispered, "You're helping other children, Daddy." It was better recognition than any business award. The Helena Cardoso case inspired a municipal bill requiring rigorous criminal and psychological background checks for professionals hired as domestic caregivers for children. Rodrigo testified at a public hearing at the city council. "I trusted her because it was convenient. I didn't check references thoroughly. I didn't question the signs. My negligence almost cost my daughter her emotional life. If this law forces other parents to do the checks I didn't and saves one child, my public failure will have been worth it." The Sophia law was passed unanimously 8 months later. Donna Irene, the doorkeeper who had tried to warn Rodrigo repeatedly, became a central figure in a community child protection network he created in the neighborhood. He funded training for 50 doorkeepers, janitors, shopkeepers, and security guards to identify signs of child abuse and know how to report it properly. "If I had insisted more, maybe some of Sophia's suffering could have been avoided," Donna Irene said emotionally at the graduation of the first class. Rodrigo hugged her. "You did what you could. I was the one who didn't listen, but now we will teach others to listen. For Sophia, for all the Sophias." Sophia's first birthday party after the trauma was carefully planned. Just 5 classmates from her new school. A small one, with classes of 10 students, where teachers knew each child by name. It was held at the house with the garden that Rodrigo had bought after selling the apartment where everything had happened. The decorations were simple. Sophia had asked for a dog theme. The chocolate cake was made by Rodrigo himself. He burned the first attempt. The second came out crooked, but edible. At 4 p.m., with Rex running between laughing children, Sophia blew out 7 candles. Rodrigo saw a genuine smile on her face, the first in almost a year. Later, after her friends had gone home and Sophia was hugging Rex on the sofa, Rodrigo asked, "What did you wish for, princess?" She looked at him with those green eyes she had inherited from Camilla. "I wish that you would never go away again." The sentence pierced his heart. Rodrigo knelt in front of his daughter and held her small hands. "I promise, Sophia, I will never leave you again. I will never prioritize work over you again. I will never trust blindly without checking again. You are more important than any business, any contract, anything in the world. I love you." Sophia hugged him tightly. "I love you too, Daddy." Rodrigo often reflected on the journey of the last few months in sessions with his own therapist. He had started therapy 2 weeks after finding Sophia on the street. "I built a 2 billion real empire. I closed deals on 5 continents. I was on the cover of business magazines. And none of it mattered when I saw my daughter on the street, alone, scared, begging. True success isn't about how much you build or accumulate. It's about who you protect, who you love, and being present for the people who depend on you. I learned that too late, but I learned, and now I live differently." Elena Cardoso was sentenced to 12 years in prison, 8 for child abuse and the illegal supply of controlled substances to a minor, and 4 for aggravated theft. Marcelo received 6 years as an accomplice, but had revealed details in exchange for a reduced sentence. Rodrigo attended the entire trial, but he felt no satisfaction with the conviction, only a deep sadness for the lost time, for Sophia's stolen innocence, for how easily trust turns into a weapon when placed in the wrong hands. Legal justice was necessary, but it didn't heal. Only presence healed. Only consistent love rebuilt. One Saturday afternoon, 6.5 months after their encounter on the street, Rodrigo and Sophia were playing with Rex in the garden. The golden retriever chased a ball that Sophia threw, came back drooling, and licked her face. Sophia laughed, a crystal-clear, pure laugh of a genuinely happy child. Rodrigo watched from a distance, his heart tight with gratitude for a second chance he didn't deserve but had received. Sophia ran up to him. "Daddy, come play with us." He put down his phone, he was only checking the weather forecast, not work, and joined the game. As the sun set, they sat on the grass with Rex lying between them, and Sophia rested her head on Rodrigo's shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her, feeling her perfect weight, the smell of her children's shampoo, the warmth of the life he had almost lost. "I'm happy now, Daddy," she whispered. Rodrigo kissed the top of her head. "Me too, princess. Me too." It was true. He earned a quarter of what he used to. He worked 6 hours instead of 18. He no longer traveled internationally. And he was infinitely happier, because he had finally understood what Camilla had tried to teach him before she died. Presence is a present. This story could have ended in irreversible tragedy. Sophia could have been abducted by predators that night on the street. She could have suffered a fatal overdose from the sedatives. She could have developed trauma so deep that she would never recover. But it ended in a new beginning. Imperfect, painful, but real. Because sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. And for Rodrigo Almeida, what mattered was right there, in that hug, in that garden, in that moment. Sophia was safe. He was present, finally. If you're watching this story, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what are you building? And more importantly, who are you neglecting while you build it? How long has it been since you truly talked to your children, not just sent a quick message? When was the last time you prioritized a family dinner over a business meeting? Because in the end, when everything falls apart, and at some point it does, What will remain are not contracts or bank accounts. It will be the people you loved and who loved you back. No corporate empire is worth the loss of someone you love. No amount of money can buy back lost time with your children. No professional award can fill the emptiness of a hug not given, a conversation not had, a presence not offered. Rodrigo learned this the most painful way possible, but he learned, and he changed. The question is, will you wait to lose everything to learn it too, or will you choose differently now, while there is still time? If this story touched you, if it made you rethink your priorities, if it reminded you of what truly matters, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear this message, because maybe your action will save a Sophia out there. Maybe it will wake up a Rodrigo before it's too late. And maybe together we can build a world where success includes presence, where achievements don't require the sacrifice of those we love, and where being present is valued as much as being productive. We'll see you in the next story. And don't forget, hug the ones you love today. Tomorrow might be too late.